Hello there, a very great evening to you, and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television. We are yet very happy and pleasured to have your company this evening, and we will be talking about an important matter: equality, freedom, and justice for all, with our focus on emphasizing partnerships for collective progress. And this is in line with, of course, the UN Day 2023. And our show today is organized by the Office of the UN Resident Coordinator here in Rwanda, with partnership from UNDP as part of the UN Day 2023, and it aims to shed light on a critical theme, as I said it: equality, freedom, and justice for all, with an emphasis on indispensable role of partnerships in achieving objectives, and of course encapsulated in this particular theme. As I just said, we are here, and I'm your host and moderator, but I'm very much pleasured to have the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Ozonia Ojielo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, viewers.
Yes, also joining us is our good friend, he's always here, Dr. Joseph Nkurunziza Diarasa, the Executive Director of Never Again Rwanda. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sam.
Yes. Also joining us this evening is Ambassador Christine Nkurikinka, the CEO of the Rwanda Cooperation Initiative. Thank you very much for joining us, Ambassador.
Thank you, Sam.
Yes, as I started saying, we are here because we are celebrating the UN Day 2023, and as the theme goes, equality, freedom, and justice for all, with emphasis on partnerships for collective progress. And as I said, our host today, although I'm the moderator, is Dr. Ozonia Ojielo, the UN Resident Coordinator in Rwanda. And I'll have a pleasure of starting with you to initiate us to start it off. UN Day, what is it, and why should it convene us here?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sam, and hello, viewers. Viewers might remember that when the United Nations was established in 1945, the purpose for establishing the UN was to save humanity from the scourge of war. The legacy of Second World War, the Holocaust, which led to the killing of 6 million Jews, the massive destruction of infrastructure and their facilities across the world. So the 34 countries that came together to sign the Declaration of the United Nations decided that it was important to create an organization that will work towards world peace and world stability. But they also recognized that in the desire for world peace, that a strong anchor for peace must be development. How do you support social and economic development at the country level as an anchor for providing hope and opportunity for citizens, for the world community? How do you promote international relations in ways that people look for pacific means of resolving differences rather than the use of war?
Right.
And so all of that, 75 years plus of the United Nations, there's a long journey that the global community has traveled. Mm-hmm. We haven't had another world war since then. There may have been wars in different parts of the world, but each war often ends up at the negotiation table. And in many of those instances, the platform for resolution has been the United Nations system. So celebrating United Nations Day at the country level is a mechanism of reminding ourselves of the global aspiration for peace, for justice, for equality, for fairness,
yes,
of recognizing the interrelationships with people, and therefore recommitting ourselves at the level of governments, at the level of communities, individuals, civil society, that there's something that binds us together. It's about peace and security, but it has dimensions for social and economic transformation, as well as environmental protection. So here in Rwanda, that's what we've observed since Saturday and yesterday. Mm-hmm. And then the official day actually is tomorrow, yes, 24th October, and there will be events to commemorate that as well.
All right. Thank you very much for highlighting the crucial reason as to why we're here. And still on the reason, I'll ask both Dr. Joseph and Ambassador Christine, what is the relevance of the particular organizations that you represent? Being here, what is the relevance? We're celebrating the UN Day, and Dr. Ojielo just explained why we're here and the genesis of it all. Starting with you, Ambassador Christine, what's the relevance and the relation of your organization in particular to the UN Day 2023?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for having me here today. As Ozonia, my brother Ozonia said, there is a global aspiration, not only for peace and security, but also in many different topics. And we believe that we can only achieve that in partnership with different countries, with different partners, the UN, the different UN organizations and institutions and agencies, helping all of us in our respective countries to achieve different goals and different aspirations. When we look at the Vision 2050 of Rwanda, the SDGs, and the Africa vision, the Africa we want, the Vision 2063, we can only reach them if we really work in partnership. So partnership is key, and specifically now in the context of South-South cooperation, how do we work together to make sure that we reach our goals?
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph, this one, but in line with the civil society, well, where is the relation?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for inviting us. It's a pleasure to be here, trying to share ideas. I think as Dr. Zonia said, you can't achieve global aspirations single-handedly. So as a civil society organization, we do contribute or also work hand in hand with the UN institutions, UNDP, UNFPA when it comes to health. There's UN Fund for Democracy, there's UN Fund for Peace. You know that UN has almost beyond 100,000 peacekeepers. So when it comes to peace and security, there is civil society organizations there that are into humanitarian, that are trying to work with displaced populations. So celebrating the UN Day, it's also an opportunity for civil society to showcase how they work in partnership with the UN institutions.
Right.
As you also know, you know that in 2025, the UN brought countries around the globe, and they had to set up the SDGs. So SDG 17, it talks about partnership for global development. So you can't achieve development alone. You need partnerships because different countries have different capacities. So through the UN systems, there is opportunities for building those partnerships.
Right.
And those are some of the reasons to why when you talk of UN Day celebrations, you can't shy away from having civil society on board.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back to you, Dr. Zonia Ojielo. Maybe before we hit directly into the theme and all it means, what were the activities that are leading us to celebration of the UN Day 2023 that you have been carrying out as UN Rwanda towards today, as we are yet to celebrate the day tomorrow?
Thank you, Sam. For this year, we wanted to operationalize the first sentence in the UN Charter, actually first phrase. And that phrase is, we the peoples. It didn't say we the governments. So what it means is that the United Nations system is owned by governments, but also by the peoples of the world.
Yes.
And historically, in previous years, we will celebrate at an official event, perhaps with MENAFET, with government institutions. This year, we thought it was important to take the United Nations system to the communities. So first, in the week leading up, since last week, we organized Twitter Spaces. So every day we had one UN agency talk about its work, and people called in from different parts of the country to ask questions about their work. And then on Saturday, together with Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, we organized a tree planting ceremony event at the Mbio Unity and Resilience Village. Everybody in Rwanda is connected to why that village was established.
Yeah.
Rwanda's journey to social and economic healing and transformation post the genocide against the Tutsi. So it was an important signpost of solidarity with Rwanda as we begin to think about 30 years commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi. So all the ambassadors accredited to Rwanda who were resident here were present, development partners, many government officials from different government ministries, together with Prison Fellowship Rwanda and civil society partners. So we all spent Saturday morning planting trees. We planted avocado trees as a sign of life and nurturing and food. We planted jackfruit trees, also for health. We also planted acacia trees to establish the symphony that Rwanda is trying to orchestrate.
Right.
Yesterday, Sunday, was a football match and family day. So we had 4 teams competing. One team represented the government, another team represented diplomatic community, a third team represented development partners, and a team represented the United Nations system. The symbolism is the partnership together with government and the institutions, that development has to be done when all of these mechanisms come together.
Yes.
And then tomorrow is a town hall day, which includes the government, development partners, civil society, at an event in the afternoon. The 2 keynote speakers will be my sister here, CEO of Rwanda Corporation, as well as the Honorable Minister of Justice, and they will be discussing the theme of freedom, equality, and justice for all.
Right.
And what that means in the Rwanda we want, and how to go ahead. So, and then of course, we are very privileged to have this TV discussion as well as part of the public sensitization and awareness of what UN Day 2023 means to everyone here in Rwanda.
Yes. Before I get to an important matter of emphasizing and enhancing partnerships, I want to ask you, all of you, this question. What do you make of this particular theme? If you can break it down, I'll start with you, Ambassador Christine. Equality, freedom, and justice for all, emphasizing partnerships for collective progress. What do you make of this particular theme?
When I look at it, particularly from our perspective of collaboration and partnerships, I think those are important part of the work we do, even if we do it sometimes indirectly, but we all contribute with whatever we do, with whatever we share with our partners and countries. So we work really towards all these values that are so important for all of us. So if we talk about, let's say, equality, so it's a partnership, let's say, on equal footing. When we talk about partnership on equal footing, there is not one who is better than the other. It's like we are exchanging. And whatever we do with our partners, we share our knowledge, our experience as Rwanda, what worked well for us, for others, not to copy-paste, but to adapt it to their own context, and in the best way, they can do even better, so that the next time we will go and benchmark on what they have achieved.
Right.
So we are equal in that partnership. Freedom, of course, to share the values we have. Accountability is very important. Accountability, transparency, citizen partnership, citizen participation. All these are values that we share in our everyday work. And then when you talk about justice for all, we work a lot on the homegrown initiatives. We have the Abunzi, the concept of Abunzi, that we have here in Rwanda, that we found in discussing with different partners that they have similar practices, so we can learn from each other in improving our respective way of working. But then if you go now in what we call the best practice, we have e-justice system, where the entire cases are digitally treated. It has a lot of a range of positive impact for the citizen, that they don't have to go every time there. They can monitor online the case where it is. There are some KPIs for the agent or the different people treating the case, so that you can know exactly how long it will take to get a response, to get it to the next step.
Right.
So all these really provide justice for all, easily accessible, and then at the same time allowing everyone to feel free and have all the freedoms we are talking about and we all aspire to.
Absolutely, well elaborated. Dr. Ozonye, what do you make of this particular theme coming right from the host, you convening us here today? What do you make of this particular very global and wide theme of the UN Day 2023?
Let me give you two contexts. The first context, of course, is to think about what factors led to the Second World War. And the kind of global community that when member states came together in San Francisco to create the United Nations system, what they had in mind. The idea that might was right, the idea that people could be stigmatized and discriminated on the basis of the ethnicity or beliefs, and the idea that peoples were subjugated in many parts of the world. So with the construction of the establishment of the United Nations system, the aspiration was of a world order where amicable means were the basis for resolving differences, where human rights took center stage in terms of the obligations of the state to its citizens, and where individual rights and freedoms are protected by the state. And so that's how the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was also adopted in 1946 as a framework document that animates the relationship between governments and their citizens. And the framework, the Universal Declaration became a revolutionary document that the liberation fighters in many parts of the world used as a basis to ask for independence, about the autonomy, but also their freedoms. So that's one context. Second context is Rwanda. Since last week, I started reading up on the report of the Urugwiro dialogues that took place in Rwanda. And citizens were, every Saturday, they were having the discussion, and they were saying, what led us as a country to where we were up till 1994? And how does Rwanda create a society where every citizen feels that the country belongs to them, that there's equality, that you can live in any part of the country, it doesn't matter what your belief or alleged ethnicity might be, and that the systems of justice is blind, like that justice mother, and can dispense justice fairly. So the Rwanda we have today, it's a work that tries to capture the aspirations of the Urugwiro dialogue. So for me, it's just a perfect fit with the discussion for this year's UN Day of freedom, of equality, and of justice for all. That the construction of a new Rwanda is perfectly aligned to this aspiration, and it's a reflection of the views of Rwandans during the Urugwiro dialogues about the society we want to build.
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph, they all just elaborated it perfectly, but now I want to bring in the same question, but on an aspect of asking that all these policies, all these politics, and what is reflected on the ground in relation to this particular theme, what is your take?
Yeah, no, the question is very interesting when you talk about politics and policies. So at the end of the day, you might find that the realities on the ground don't match with expectations. But that comes from the fact that countries have different challenges. And because of the history, because of the context, and also due to the fact that countries have a different way of governance. But when you look at the theme, equality, freedom, and justice, I would say that in countries where there are issues with equality, UN comes in or to try and support, but to try and also enlighten the decision makers where there is need when it comes to inequalities. For example, today, the UN, if you remember very well, during COVID showed inequalities globally. By the UN, through the UN systems that are charged with health, they provided almost more than 5 billion doses of vaccines to make sure that even those who can't afford, even those even those countries with inequalities can be able to access vaccines.
Yes.
When it comes to humanitarian support, due to conflicts worldwide, World Food Program is almost supporting almost 115 million people in 84 countries. So you see that at least the UN tries, even though they won't push leaders of different countries to change the way they do things, but they try to, I would say, teach by doing. So that we can be able to achieve the aspirations that the founding fathers of the UN systems had. So when it comes to, of course, to freedom and justice, so 30 years down the road, next year, to be 30 years after the genocide against the Tutsi, the liberators of this country, one of their principles was based on the Universal Declaration on Human Rights.
Yes.
So that's why freedom and justice are key. Now, when it comes to a country like Rwanda that had the genocide of proximity, where a man killed a wife gave her her own kids, so there is a need to strengthen rule of law. So because it's only the rule of law that will provide the effective coexistence of each and every Rwandan, being short, being tall, being whatever. So that's why when you look at the theme and having justice being part of the theme, it's and also given our history, I think it's the right moment that as we celebrate, but also we have as the natives, we have a reflection of where we've come from, where we are going, and what needs to be done to make sure that we strengthen the freedoms that Rwandans should enjoy here.
Yes, Ambassador Christine, talking about partnerships, cooperation, how are you working to foster partnerships for sustainable development as the Rwanda Cooperation Initiative? As you know, this is one of the important factors as to why we're here, partnerships.
Yes, partnerships. We have partnerships with many different countries, but also institutions, including the UN. And we make sure that whatever we do, it is done also for mutual, it's beneficial for the both parties. There is no loser in our partnership. This is something that is very important, that the interest of both parties are taken into consideration. We are specifically, as I mentioned, in charge of South-South cooperation, meaning that we work with countries from the global south in general. But within that partnership, we also have, for example, a partnership with G7+, an organization bringing together post-conflict countries, where, of course, then we work on different topics. We have different activities that we will conduct together. of course, then to meet the aspiration of the people of the post-conflict countries, talking about equality, freedom, and justice for all again, sharing the Rwandan experience, sharing what worked for us, but also learning from them, as I mentioned. So we have a range of partners we work with. I can also mention a country like Yemen, talking about freedom and equality, and what my brother also was saying. Post-conflict countries, or Yemen, where they come to Rwanda, they learn from our history, they visit the Genocide Memorial, and I guess they also visit your institution. And then one of the most powerful message they gave us at the end of the visit was like, we had lost hope. But now, having seen Rwanda, and that you made it, we regained hope.
Right.
Meaning that we give even more than only what we are sharing, what worked for us, but also really to give hope to others that they can also develop and become a peaceful country, that the people can live together and strive also for a better future for their people.
Absolutely.
So we have many good stories that are also really heartwarming. I hope we will have the opportunity to share them here.
Yes, Dr. Uzonia, talking about partnerships as the United Nations, Dr. Joseph said it well, you don't force countries, but you teach them by doing what you want to teach them or what you want them to do. Talking about this issue of partnerships, if you can maybe take me through, I don't know if it will be possible, but the 75 years journey of partnerships and building partnerships. How has it been in trying to instill the right values into people, into nations, into communities that sometimes are not even willing to embrace it and actually put it into practice?
Thank you, Sam. I think the first point to acknowledge is that the United Nations is a normative institution. So there are many norms. Yes. We've referred to Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you look at the various treaties and conventions, whether it's about Convention Against Torture, Inhuman or Degrading Treatment, Convention on the Law of the Sea, many treaties that regulate state behavior. What it does then is that when member states sign those instruments and treaties, they commit to conducting themselves in those ways of behavior. When member states signed the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, they committed to using the 17 goals as a baseline for how they transform and develop their countries. So that normative institution creates standards that everybody subscribes to and wants to behave according to them. The second is that it's also an accompaniment institution, because the journey of national development is not instant coffee. Yes. State formation and state consolidation is not one-day wonder. It takes time. The whole idea of building the nation, of social cohesion, takes time. So the role of the United Nations is to provide that accompaniment. First, to share comparative experience of how it could be done. Second, to share the analytics of what the problem areas are, but also the options. So in that accompanying process, you are sharing experience, you are deploying expertise, you're developing policies, you're supporting member states in their journey. The third is then a demonstration effect. The problems may be too many. The answers intractable. So the UN says, we will do a project. We will come to one community and show that community members can be enabled, supported to develop sustenance, economic prosperity. So that project is proof of concept that it can be done. But you're doing it under the leadership and coordination of national institutions. Yes. And on the basis of that demonstration effect, the government then takes it over and builds it to scale. The fourth dimension is leverage. You're using the UN's leverage, UN's convening capacity to bring others who may not even be present in the country but have the expertise or the resources, which may include financial resources, to deploy them. So a lot of our programs, even in Rwanda today, is not about financing that comes to the UN. It's about financing that goes to the national development agenda, received by national institutions, led by them, but also expertise from different areas to show comparative experience. So now where do I start? Is it in countries that were decolonized, like Namibia and the others? mandate territories, the liberation of from Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and the others, or in the post-independence arrangements of many African countries, how they constructed their own governing institutions,
Right.
how they built their institutions. So there's a whole range of experience that could be shared from across the world. But what is most important in all of this is that it is the national agenda, the national strategy that is the point of reference. And the UN's role remains the accompanying role. We're standing behind. So when you turn around, when you see that the UN is behind you, it gives you confidence
Yes.
to soar in that journey of nation building.
To what I said, how about those that are not really willing that to acknowledge that you are standing behind them and you're willing to accompany them towards the national journeys?
If a country has the expertise and the resources, you don't need the United Nations system. So that's why the UN is present essentially in developing countries. So South Korea at one point was a UN developing country. And UN supported South Korea in its development journey. And then what has South Korea done? In the last 20 years, South Korea says, we've gained a lot of experience. We now want to share our experience with the rest of the world. So we don't need the UN presence to show us how to do things. We have learned how to do them ourselves. We will now showcase others. Same with Kuwait, same with Bahrain, same with Saudi Arabia. The many of these countries that were once beneficiaries of UN project presence are now sharing the experience. Now, but we know what I find fascinating. What I find fascinating is that Rwanda, yes, it's benefiting from the UN, but Rwanda says, we actually think there's something unique that we're doing. So at the same time as we benefit from UN comparative experience, we want to start sharing our own experience. So the homegrown solution, so Rwanda Cooperation is doing some amazing, unbelievable work. Sam, you have no idea how many delegations come from around the world, but particularly from around Africa to Rwanda Cooperation. I think last year it was like 400.
We have 400.
400 delegations that came here.
Yes.
So that's the spirit. When countries say, oh, don't show us, do the analysis, present the evidence, they don't need to come to you after that, but give them something that they can use to interrogate their own processes and make their own determinations to go ahead.
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph, if I bring you in, all those partnerships that we're talking about, if you go to the ground where they are implemented, where they put in place, you'll find that the civil society is who everybody turns to, to ask what is the situation on the ground and how do we better do this in relation to what is really on the ground to address the particular program or the particular agenda despite all the policies that were in place. And if you can enlighten me on this particular issue of partnerships, of collaboration, UN agencies and different institutions and national, independent, the civil society, all coming together and aligning their agendas together to bring to life different programs. How is it working? And if you can relate it to Rwanda here, how it has been growing over the years, how do you rate it?
Yeah, one, I would say that the reasons to why we have civil society is that civil society is the voice of the voiceless.
Yes.
One is that governments are doing lots of things. They are doing great initiatives, but there is also, you can't talk of governance without having civil society on board.
Yes.
Because one, civil society tries to empower citizens so that they can be active citizens,
Yes.
to have effective citizen participation. So even the sustainability we are talking of, if we don't have an active citizenry, so we want to be able to achieve that sustainability.
Yes.
So that's the main purpose for civil society. Two, civil society is also to try and make sure that there's transparency and accountability. If a certain program or project is being implemented and you find that it's not implemented the way it should be, so civil society has to engage with the concerned parties, the government, or maybe even the donors, the development partners, or even the UN systems involved in that particular program, so that we can see improvement. So I can say that when it comes to partnership, civil society is key, because at times it's the government, irrespective of the contribution of the civil society, it's governments that initiate these policies.
Yes.
In most cases where civil society has no space, everything's done by government. So civil society is there to at least monitor if the implementation of these policies are responding to the needs of the citizens. And also, there is, of course, like now, Nevegan has an observer status at the UN. So the UN President, the UN Secretary General sends us at times issues requesting us to comment, requesting us to share what is happening in our respective countries, because they also need the other side of the coin, to know what is going on, to know if UN is making impact, and that can only come from civil society.
Right.
So, but of course, civil society, we are also not angels, so it requires to have effective civil society that also knows how partnership works. To work, how do you work with government? How do you work with UN systems? How do you work with development partners? And I would say that at least one UN in Rwanda, they have contributed towards making sure that civil society were also on the table.
Right.
When they have all these meetings with the government, they say, no, we need to see civil society.
Right.
We need to see civil society. So that has also increased the relevance of civil society.
Yes, and I believe
Rwanda.
Accountability as well. Ambassador Christine has something to comment on it.
Yes, maybe I wanted to come back and confirm that, of course, also when we receive delegations, they want to see the civil society. They say, okay, this is good, this is government, this is what you are doing, but the civil society, what do they say? And in most of the case, they confirm what we were telling them, and they come back and say, okay, we believe you now. That what you do is also what is being done on the ground. But coming back now to one comment my brother Dr. Uzonia made about the role Rwanda is playing. So the South-South cooperation and the triangular cooperation, meaning it becomes triangular when a third party come in that partnership, let's say the UN. The beauty of it is that you can be at the same time, like we do in Rwanda, providing some expertise, but at the same time also recipient. So this pivotal role you can play, and it's kind of changing the setting we had, where you have the global north coming and telling us what to do and how to do it, but now finding solution amongst ourselves and then playing different roles, where today a country can be recipient and tomorrow providing support to other countries, as the role Rwanda is playing in that. I think this is something very particular that is really also changing the narrative, and we see that it's also gaining a momentum internationally to have this kind of triangular cooperation, bringing in countries, bringing knowledge from Rwanda in responding to different challenges other countries are facing.
Absolutely. Before I go back to Dr. Uzonia, Ambassador Christine, sometimes, as rightly Dr. Joseph said, there are donors, there are different development partners on board, but you see that various initiatives, various policies, various programs that were meant for the development of the citizens who we are targeting in the end have failed to accomplish the initial target, and we can completely say that there is failure in different areas. In the case of Rwanda, what made these partnerships work, and we are here with the UN saying that, Rwanda is the flagship that partnerships can work and, bring about progress, bring about change that is desired in the first place. What did Rwanda do differently?
I think the Ministry from Minecofin can also maybe respond better to that one. But from what I know, the important part is to ask for equitable partnerships. As I mentioned, to stand firm and say, this is our program, this is our vision, this is where to go. And then the partners coming in to accompany us, not telling us what to do, not telling us what they expect from us, but really to accompany us on the way we have defined for ourselves and the vision. We had the Vision 2020, we have now the Vision 2050. So to tell them, so which part will you playing, or which partnership will we having with you, allowing us to reach our goals, not your goals, to reach our own goals.
Right.
And I think that ownership, and of course let's say that value of dignity of who we are and what we want, and to stand firm on that, I think is something that was very key and got also understood by our partners and very much appreciated, by the way.
Right.
Even if at times there were some resistance, but today they really appreciate it. And even when they bring us some countries to learn from Rwanda, they say, look at how Rwanda did and how they work with us. So I think it's very important also to set that tone, to take that ownership, to have that dignity of saying, this is what we want, and the freedom to say it, and to say, this is what we want, and please come help us to reach our goals.
Absolutely. Dr. Uzonia, talking about, equity, freedom, and justice for all, I think it is more relevant in today's world than ever before. And looking at the urgent issues that are at hand right now, in all the required partnerships and everyone's efforts that is needed to realize what we really need, I want you to pinpoint what are the crucial issues to address that are at hand right now, generally in the world view, but also particularly here in Rwanda.
Sam, that's a difficult question because the needs are multiple, and yet the capacities and resources for addressing them are limited. And so perhaps the starting point must be in terms of the socio-economic transformation of societies, because the socio-economic transformation of societies gives people a sense of hope about the future. So when you talk about socio-economic transformation of societies, then it leads you to a discussion around financing for the national development. Every country in Africa, Rwanda has developed all the best policies for development, but still Rwanda cannot find the money. And the logic should be, when you have all the right policies, you have the capacities, you have the instruments, the money should follow.
Yes.
Why is the money not following? And not just for Rwanda, but the rest of Africa. If you look at the debt, the money that African countries borrow, the cost of debt in Africa is much higher than the cost of debt anywhere else. You look at the global financial institutions, their mechanisms for giving money, the weight they attach to certain things makes Africa look like it's a basket case. So that's one basket of issues that need to be addressed. Then you look at the question of how does knowledge and innovation spread? My dear brother here talked about COVID. Many African countries wanted the Serum Institute of India to mass produce COVID vaccines. If we say that is a world of equality and opportunity for everybody, and people say, no, it's our intellectual property right. So we must protect our intellectual property right. So Serum Institute of India cannot produce generic versions of vaccines for distribution to developing countries.
Right.
And yet it's supposed to be a global world of equality. Today, the digital divide is widening, and you need a catch-up. We need to close that digital gap if we are to participate in the global development, in the transformation of societies that need to occur. You look at issues of climate change, adaptation, mitigation. What is Africa saying? Africa is saying we didn't cause the greenhouse gas emissions. So provide us financing. Those of you who caused it from your own countries, beginning from the Industrial Revolution, you are doing the heating of the atmosphere to develop. We are happy to provide the cover, but providing financing is still problematic. So those areas, if we say it's a world, so are you then surprised that there's not just inequity, but there's polarization in the world? There's north-south polarization, east-west polarization. There are multiple forms of polarization. And the dialogue today is a dialogue of aggression and dialogue of extremism. So we need saner heads to come together. But final point is that Africa can no longer wait for others to help us to determine our development and to finance our development. We have resources in Africa, but we are still captured by our mindset about boundaries and authority and sovereignty. And what we need is a borderless Africa, but a borderless Africa with constraints. So it's not just that anybody can move around toting a gun, for example. But we need a recognition that if one African country cannot go alone and be negotiating with global institutions, you're too tiny, you're too small. So it's a mindset about our private sector, what we do as Africans to anchor our own development. And any development partners in Africa, we say thank you, welcome. As my sister said, it's our priority as African and our pathway.
Yes.
You want to walk the journey with us, you're welcome. You don't want to walk it with us, keep your money.
We're good to go.
We're good to go. You know, pension funds in Africa alone can finance national development. But the laws on pension funds restrict them to certain investments. So there's billions of dollars equivalent sitting in our pension funds.
Right.
Remittances, in most countries now, remittances is much more than ODA. But we have to give thought to how else we can transform remittances to finance our own development. So there are many approaches that many African governments are beginning to discuss today, and we hope that they can lead to some fruition and that the transformation should be underway.
Absolutely. Dr. Joseph, when you know, countries, when development partners in different sectors fail to fine-tune and align their agendas, you find that in the end, it is a blame game. Everybody is, having someone to blame for what is not going right. And, the citizen will blame the government will blame the partners will blame, everybody has someone to blame. And, I remember when President Paul Kagame said blame game doesn't solve any issues, any problems. How do we get out of this cover-up that we're having of a blame game, and in the end, we end up not addressing where the issue is and how we can particularly solving to actually getting to do the right thing that is needed to make sure that we achieve the common agenda and the common goals.
Yeah, no. What you've just asked is just very interesting, because some few days back we are trying to make an analysis that why is it that when things fail, at times we blame governments. So we came to a conclusion that at times governments are reflections of our own society.
Right.
Because people in government are our brothers, our cousins, our neighbors, our OBs at the university, our college mates, our either former girlfriends, etc. So, and you find that why is it that if things fail, we choose government?
Right.
So, the thing is that we need to create awareness. We need to re-educate our societies so that, as I said in the beginning, that we need to have active citizenry. So that when in the morning we wake up and we find somebody on the yellow paper from the Prime Minister's office, that, yeah, this person will perform. Because he has been empowered, he has been very active. So when the person goes to the government, you find that yeah, he would do or she would do what is supposed to be done. But also, the fact is, I think where the biggest challenge is that some African countries, or even including us, some of us, we never got an opportunity to work in a professional environment. So that we can be able to have those values that lead to productivity. So we come with our mediocrity from the society and take them to the government. So when things fail, you say, no, it is not me, it is the boss, it is the government, it is so and so.
Right.
So there's something you ask that some projects fail, etc. What I can say is that I don't believe in, say that things fail or maybe the UN fail. No. At times, it's the leadership of some institution or some nations. Because if the leadership can't determine what they want and how they want to achieve it, and the vision for their people, they will never achieve anything.
Right.
So that's why we find people say that UN failed. No, UN is not there to dictate what you should be doing.
Right.
UN is like, you know, an engine. So UN is like oil. Eh? The oil you put in the engine to function. So engine is the government or the leaders of those countries. So if those leaders are not functioning, the oil won't make anything. So I think leadership is key in any country. So countries with UN systems that are still benefiting from UN programs and projects, if those countries have no visionary leadership,
everything fails.
It's unfortunate that maybe I'll be dead, because the Bible says we live in Psalms 90:10 that we live 70 years. But next 75 years, you find that there are still some countries that are having UN programs.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph. As we're heading towards the conclusion of this program, I want to ask all of you that, we talked about all of these, what is needed and, what is not being done right. But moving ahead, how can we at least, make sure that we do what is right for now? We don't just complain for what hasn't been done, but, save the future, save today to make sure that we achieve what is right. I'll start off with you, Ambassador Christine.
There is a lot we can do, but I think in the context of South-South cooperation, as this is what I'm representing here, it's important first that we understand the diversity. Each country is different in many ways, but also really to understand that diversity, but to build on the diversity and work together towards achieving our goals, our respective goals. If I may here, I want to just to mention that I was with the ambassador of Mali this morning, who again reminded me that their Minister of Youth and Sport was here, and they have launched now Umuganda and Car-Free Day in Bamako, so they have started. So meaning that there are many things that are happening. It doesn't require a lot, but it requires indeed a leadership that understand all the how can I put it, how it is important to collaborate and to learn from each other, not only just to come and sit in conferences and leave, but really to implement what they've learned and what they can do. And as my brother Ozonia also mentioned, there are a lot we can do without means that doesn't really require big money, that can have a huge impact. And I think those are, let's say, low-hanging fruit that we can really leverage on and start with in really implementing and putting our citizen in the center on whatever we do, and working, of course, with the civil society, with the UN organizations coming together and joining force in partnership to reach our respective goals and our aspirations of our people.
Absolutely. Dr. Zonio, as we conclude.
Thank you, Sam. The famous saying that you should not let a crisis go to waste applies to Africa right now.
Okay.
Because in this moment of tremendous change and uncertainty, that's when leadership and purpose is called for. And I think in my experience, what stands Rwanda out from many other African countries are those two things. Every African country has all the policies, all the instruments for development. Some are very nicely written in glossy paper. The difference is the leadership and the sense of purpose.
Right.
And just start somewhere. We know that development doesn't happen overnight, but you start somewhere, there's a clear journey, there's a pathway you are walking. I always say there's no template for development. Each country must chart its own template based on its lived political, socio-economic experience. And then the role of development partners is an accompanying role to walk that journey.
Right.
And my hope will be that African countries can begin to define their pathway and walk their journey. And all of us, UN, civil society, development partners, financial institutions, can support our respective countries in their respective journeys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph, as we depart.
Yeah, no, in a few words, what I can say is ownership. That is, we need to own what we are doing so that we take the responsibility. Two, and also to understand our context. For example, you might be knowing that across the African continent, civic liberties or the space for civil society is shrinking. But I would say that at least in Rwanda, we've been able to understand how to pattern, how to work with the government. So you will never see me abusing a certain minister, like maybe it is done in some countries that I want to mention. If that would be happening, we wouldn't be seated here discussing about partnership. So understanding the context, understanding our issues, then that provides the wisdom to come up with ways of how to be able to address some of the shortcomings.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph Nkurunziza Diarasa, the Executive Director of Never Again Rwanda, for gracing the show today.
Thank you.
Also, thank you very much, Dr. Ozoni Ojielo, a UN Resident Coordinator in Rwanda. Yes, and thank you very much, Ambassador Christine Mudichinga, CEO of Rwanda Cooperation Initiative, for gracing the show today.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
It was indeed an interesting one. We wish we were able to continue, but time is not on our side, unfortunately. But as you heard from our panelists today, there's no template to success or development, and each country must own their problems, and no crisis should go to waste. We should make use of it and actually make the best out of it. Thank you very much for being with us. My name is Sam Kalisa, and allow me to also thank my colleague Fideli Dizamimbuto on interpretation and sign language, and we'll see you back next time. Have a great time.